Sebastian Stan's star, Fresh marks the feature directorial debut of Mimi Cave, who takes you to the familiar territory of online dating, where inconspicuous identities are hidden behind tacky one-liners and vivid pictures. There is an element of surprise in not knowing the unknown and reaching out on the first date, with just an idea about the made-up physical attributes of the person that you have seen on the online portal. But whether that element of surprise would be pleasant or not is something that is uncertain. There is a reason why there has been a paradigm shift in the ideologies of even those who considered online dating a frivolous affair. Firstly, it is convenient, and secondly, with just a swipe, you could grow your social network or indulge with somebody in a romantic manner. Now imagine that you go on a date after matching with an individual on a dating site, and it turns out to be a debacle. Just then, at the opportune moment, comes a guy who does it the old-fashioned way. There is no misrepresentation as he is right there in front of your eyes, and people prefer to rely on what they see. What they forget is that your eyes deceive you the most. Often, we end up seeing what we want to and not what should be. Fresh begins with Noa, Daisy Edgar-Jones, on a date with a guy named Chad. The waitress is subjected to racism through Chad's unlettered and prejudiced behavior. He even audaciously makes a remark about how women in their parents' generation were more feminine in their approach, subtly implying that Noah should take a cue and dress up like that. But it seemed that the chivalrousness of his parents' generation didn't apply to him, or maybe he could choose what he wanted for himself, unlike his female counterparts, who he thought needed guidance once in a while. His eccentric male ego and assertion that he deserves what he wants because of his exemplary persona are shattered into fragments. He falls from a commanding position to a highly precarious one in just a minuscule second, and the transition is oddly comical. Noah's best friend, Molly, is her biggest cheerleader and somebody she confides in. Often, a person who is not part of the situation has sharper instincts when looking at the nitty-gritties of it, as compared to the one who is there. Noah is captivated by the effortless and straightforward charm of Steve, which she does not consider beguiling even after the several red flags. Molly has her doubts. In this day and age, she thought it was improbable that such a man would exist who wouldn't have any social media footprint. Things move fast between Noah and Steve. Noah's faith is reassured when Steve abruptly stops while making love to her and says that they might be moving too fast. The line and the notion behind it were not something that Noah expected to come out of her male counterpart. It confirmed her belief that Steve was not just fooling around. They plan a weekend getaway to a place named Cottage Grove, but instead, Steve takes her to his place. He gave an excuse that the traffic was too much and that they could leave early in the morning when there was less traffic. He makes her a drink, just the way she liked it. For a moment, Fresh plays in accordance with your premeditation. Noah's drink was spiked, and she fell unconscious. She wakes up to find herself chained. She asks Steve if he was going to rape her. And at that moment, your premeditation is sent into remodeling once again. Who were Steve's clients? Steve tells Noah and Fresh that he wants to trade her meat. It would have been easier for her to digest the fact that he was going to molest her. She doesn't understand what is happening. The notion of cannibalism is so bizarre that even when she is chained, she thinks that Steve might be just pulling a dark jape. But he is not. A girl named Penny was in the facility too, from whom Noah learns that Steve had been doing this for quite some time now. Penny tells Noah that another girl named Melissa was also in the facility and had almost lost her mind. Noah is still hopeful that she might be able to escape if she is taken out of the cell. But it proved to be her biggest mistake. Not only does Steve pin her down easily, but he also cuts off meat from her backside. Molly gets skeptical after reading her chats with Noah. She smelled that something was terribly off. Noah had sent her a picture of a waterfall, which she found out was a stock image. Molly tries to find out about Steve by searching for a picture on Google that Noah had sent her earlier. Before disappearing, Noah had told her that she had accidentally bumped into Paul, whom Molly had used to date earlier. Paul was working as a bartender in the cafe where Noah and Steve had gone for a date. Molly goes to Paul in the hope of finding some lead. She finds out his address and decides to go straight to his house and also sends her location to Paul if anything untoward happens. Molly reaches Steve's residence and meets his wife Anne, who thinks that there clearly has been some misunderstanding. Just then Steve arrives and tells Molly that he doesn't know of any girl named Noa. Just before leaving, Molly dials Noah's number and it rings in Steve's pocket. Before she could react, Steve hit her from behind. We come to know that even Anne was a victim of Steve, who had somehow rescinded being one and now was living with Steve as his wife. Steve tells Noah that his clients are the 1% of the 1%. These were the people who could afford anything and everything in the world and, henceforth, wanted something exclusive for themselves. The clientele was symbolic of the ideologies of an intrinsic capitalistic setup. In order to establish their distinctiveness, they were part of this clan that had the privilege of savoring human meat. Maybe it gave them a sense of power and a means to establish their primacy. In my opinion, it was not about the taste or getting addicted to it as much as it was about the incessant need to feel that superiority. Did Noah survive? Molly is also brought to Steve's prison. Noah understands that there was no point in acting impulsive or shouting for help. She comes to know through Penny that Steve never slept with her. It gives her a hint that he might be inclined towards her. While reading a magazine that Steve had provided her, she reads something written in the magazine by a former victim. It said, "If you are reading this, it means that he likes you." Noah starts playing along. She asks him questions about how human meat tastes. She shows her curiosity and hides her panic-stricken self. She takes advantage of the fact that Steve likes her. He gives her a dress to wear and frequently has meals with her. On one such house date, things escalate quickly and Noah goes down for fellation. To Steve's horror, she bites him and takes the opportunity frees Penny and Molly, who were clapped in chains. With painstaking effort, the three girls get the better of Steve and Noah shoots him in the face. When Steve dies, they think that, finally, the nightmare is over. But just then, Anne arrives at the scene and almost strangles Noah to death. Molly once again comes to her rescue and smashes her face with a spade. Fortunately, after Steve and Anne's deaths, Noah, Molly, and Penny are finally able to escape from what seemed no less than a nightmare. The horrors left a lasting impact on their psyche, but the experience would help them to judge people and their motives better in future, maybe.